This is why expats gain weight after living abroad for a long period of time. And it isn't because your metabolism slows down. It's simply because of how much you're moving throughout the day. So let me show you how we break that down in the fitness world. So we have our TDEE, which is our total daily energy expenditure. So let me break that down. I'll show you here. This is usually broken down into about 4 parts. We have our largest portion, which is BMR. Okay, that's our basal metabolic rate. This is basically just how many calories our body burns at rest. So that's using normal functions, that's pumping blood, that's breathing, that's pushing hormones, that's everything that it needs to do to basically run our body normally. After that, we have our what's called NEAT. This is the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this one is basically the movement that we have throughout the day that is just normal movement, like me moving my hands like this, or if you have restless leg syndrome, then it's like shaking your leg, or just basic walking or going from place to place, not exercise is the main point. It's just normal movement, like I shake my head and I move my mouth. All of that takes energy, and that is part of our NEAT. Then, right under that, let's say for someone who does not generally exercise, we would have our TEF, or what we call the thermal effect of food. This is actually how many calories it takes to burn the food that you eat, to digest that food. It takes calories to digest food. And then right on top of that, and this usually surprises the most amount of people, is our EAT. And no, it's not what we eat. It is actually our exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is how we exercise, how much we exercise. And for people who are generally sedentary, this one is going to be the lowest on the TDEE. Not very high. This will probably account for about 5%, right? Not much. And to be honest, our exercise doesn't actually account for much of the calories that we burn. Even if we are exercising, in a pretty consistent way, we're never going to bring that down past this one or this one. Not usually, unless you're literally running marathons pretty often. So the next one, the thermal effect of food, that can actually account for a considerable amount as well. Probably about 10% or so. It's around about 15% now, right? So that is basically, how we digest our food. And a good way to increase that is to eat protein, because protein takes more energy to actually digest. And that's one of the reasons why people advise to eat more protein, among many really good reasons. The next one are NEAT. So this is a really interesting one. This one might be 15%. Are NEAT, right? Let's say you don't move a lot. You're mostly sedentary. You sit back in your chair, you watch TV, you go to work, you come back, you watch more TV, sitting down a lot, like you're mostly sitting. Then you're looking at probably about 15%, okay? Our BMR, however, that one is gonna be our highest, 60 or maybe 70%, right? 60 to 70% for the BMR. That accounts for the most amount of calories burned. The best way to increase your BMR naturally is to gain more muscle, because muscle takes more energy to use. If you have more muscle, you can actually, the more you move, the more energy you have to use to move. So actually getting more muscle is a good way to increase this number right here. But one of the biggest differentiators in this list, the highest difference, is this guy right here, our NEAT, okay? For someone who's sedentary, we're looking at maybe about 15% of our total daily energy expenditure goes into our NEAT. However, if you decide to walk more, to move more, if you're choosing to move more throughout your day, then that gets up to 30%, 40% even. I've seen numbers even as high as 50%, some sources claim. But you can see a huge jump in the amount that your meat uses as far as calories go, just from the amount that you move throughout the day. That's why you see a lot of common advice is just to go on walks throughout the day. If you're going on a 15-20 minute walk, you're burning calories doing that. And this is the system that you're using to burn those calories. Imagine walking 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, but what happens if you try to replace that with exercise? Right? A lot of people think that this is the way that you're burning calories, but when you first start out, especially, how long can you run, right? 5 minutes? Okay, at most for some people, 10 minutes maybe. That's a good amount of calories that you're burning, but you could walk for 20 minutes. You could walk 30 minutes. You could easily walk longer. More often than not, you're going to be able to walk more than you would be able to exercise. And the thing is, exercise it burns more, but it doesn't burn much more calories than just walking for 15-20 minutes a day. And if you can do that consistently and just bring up how much you're moving all the way throughout your day, then you're going to increase this number and it's going to make it easier. Now that's specific to expats. It's not specific to expats, but what is specific to expats is the longer that we live abroad, the less that we move. We tend to move a whole lot once we get to a new place because we like to explore. Sometimes we don't understand how the public transportation works. So we generally tend to walk around a lot more often, or we're just looking at sites, we're exploring, we're sightseeing. So we're just walking and moving a whole lot more often. So some people even notice weight loss during their first year abroad. But after a while, there's certain physical and psychological things that happen where we just start to move a whole lot less. Sometimes the stress gets us, sometimes it's just life slows down and we start to move less. It isn't our metabolism, it's us maybe being less excitable, moving our hands less often, but also just going on walks less often, exploring less often. And so we start to gain weight because none of our other habits have changed. We haven't started eating better, and we haven't started exercising more, and we haven't started building muscle. We've kept everything the same, except now we're also moving less. So now we're seeing more weight gain. So the first thing that I would advise any expat, if they've noticed they were gaining weight, the first thing is to walk more often. And the second thing, probably the second or first most important, actually these two go hand in hand, is to just change your diet. Maybe eat more protein. Protein is the biggest thing, but eat more protein, especially lean proteins like chicken or fish, and then up the amount of fiber that you eat. Eat cleaner carbs, less desserts, like that kind of thing, no processed foods, like that kind of stuff, or less processed foods. Just try more often to eat a bit healthier. Those are the two things that I would advise any expat to do when they start to notice that they're gaining weight. And after that, you should see pounds start to drop. Anyway, try it out and good luck out there.